AM Quad Cities at News Talk 1420 WOC with Dan and Dan. If you've driven off the Centennial Bridge into Rock Island anytime in about the past year, you may notice the Civil War monument off to the right that's on the courthouse grounds. It's missing something. It's missing the statue that used to be on the top of that. Well, they had to take that down before it fell down, and it was getting pretty close. Joining us to talk about the restoring that monument and the statue, Dick Dulaney and Doug Lambert. They're both on the committee for the Rock Island County Civil War Monument Restoration. Guys, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning.
First of all, let's talk a little bit about the history of that statue, because this is a, you hate seeing something that beautiful and something that important kind of get into the shape that it's gotten into, but you can understand why. It's been around for quite a while.
That's true. In fact, almost 150 years, about 146 years before we took it down. And we took it down because it nearly, as you said, nearly fell off. And it was lucky that someone spotted that before it fell off. And we've seen some photos of other monuments that did fall and break all to pieces. This one we probably won't be able to fix, but at least we can put it somewhere in the courthouse or in the Historical Society building. And hopefully you can raise enough funds to replace that statue and put it out in front of the courthouse.
Now, the artist who created that statue, Leonard Volk, he's a pretty famous artist. He lived here in Rock Island for a while. Was he here when they commissioned him to do that, or had he moved on at that point?
By the time they commissioned him, he had already moved to Chicago. Okay. He had been sent to Europe to study for a couple of years. He couldn't afford that, but his wife's cousin, Stephen A. Douglas, could afford to send him to Europe.
Right.
And when he came back, he moved to Chicago and started work. He made statues of Douglas and Lincoln, and was selling those, and he actually was the first, I believe, first of two artists that made a live mask of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, and that life mask is important because other artists from that point on, anytime somebody wanted to get, the features of Abraham Lincoln, it's one thing to do it from a photograph, but when you have the actual 3D features, that life mask became, extremely important for all the other memorials that have since come to Abraham Lincoln.
That's true, and the story is that the molds that he made of Lincoln's hands have been duplicated many times, and that they're actually the model for the hands that are on the Lincoln Memorial in Washington.
We've been telling people that having a Volk piece here in the Quad Cities is kind of a big deal, and it's kind of like having a Grant Wood piece,
right,
of art.
Yeah. So now that statue, I mean, the weathering and everything, that's not going to be able to be fixed, right? I mean,
we talked about the possibility of repairing the statue. It would never look the same. And it would make more sense to preserve it rather than expose it to any more weather and make a replacement, probably bronze, that we can put on the monument.
It was made of marble initially, and marble does not hold up in our world here.
Right. Yeah. That's too bad, though, too. But although I tell you, I was telling Mike earlier, I kind of like the faceless soldier. I mean, it sort of sends another message, with all the different names that are on the monument below that. So I kind of like that. But yeah, that's not what was there. No. That's not what was intended. And so the plan now is to recast this in bronze and put it back. We're going to have to restore the actual monument itself, too, right?
Because it has some cracks in it. And we need to me, it's very important that we replace the names. Many of those names are no longer legible. And we're hoping to make bronze plaques with all of those names. Because if we lose the names, we're losing a lot of history.
Right. So the plan is to do this in bronze, and how much are we talking about here? Like, this is not I know working with bronze, and I know doing monument restoration, this is not inexpensive.
Yeah, we have a goal of $100,000 that we want to raise on this project. We've had some initial bids, and we may get it for less than that. But we've been asking that's our goal from the public of $100,000. We've raised about $20,000 so far.
And how many? I know you've had many people have donated to this. I know businesses have kicked in. I know the sheriff's department is kind of taking this under their wing, right?
It's their responsibility because it's county property.
Okay, so I know they're behind this as well. You have several ways that people can help. I like the Adopt a Soldier program. This is very interesting and will actually help connect people with some of the history on that monument.
Right.
Yeah. We think there's about 450 names inscribed on the base of the monument on all four sides. About 350 of those men actually verified died in the war. And each of those soldiers has a story to tell. Some of them are extremely compelling. They were in horrific battles, dozens of battles. Others went to training camp, caught the measles, and died.
Mm-hmm.
but they're all men that had a Rock Island County connection, or they lived in the county, they enlisted in the county. They could have come from Iowa, enlisted over there on that side of the river, but that's why they're on the monument, is that they did have a connection, or their family had a connection with Rock Island County.
Now, are the names on that monument written down anywhere other than, because I know it's almost impossible to read those on the monument.
When the monument was dedicated in 1869, I believe there's some articles in the newspapers, and they listed all the men. They had publicized that quite a bit before they created the monument,
right.
And they said, come forward to us and tell us if you lost someone. So they wanted to make sure they got everybody.
Right.
And there's a very large book over at the Rock Island County Historical Society that has all the names done in hand. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book, huge thing. And it tells when they were enlisted, where they served, whether they died, or what happened to them. It's a very interesting book.
And you mentioned adopt a soldier, so that was one of the ideas we came up with for fundraising, and that if someone would like to adopt, one of our deceased soldiers for $50, they can get a really nice certificate. And on that certificate, we have a lot of very, very detailed information about each of those guys.
Does that come from their war records and everything? Is that where we?
Right.
Yeah, when they enlisted, just like today, they had to have a physical, and they filled out a form on their height and their eye color and their hair color and where they were born and what their occupation was, if they were single or married. So we have it laid out on a really nice piece of parchment paper. So it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they think about Civil War soldiers, just assume, hey, these were all military, because you see the pictures, the blue and the gray, and it was so long ago. And today we have a pretty professional military, and so you think these were all highly trained professional. No, it was not. It was just people. It's people like me, like you. Just all right, I'll come and serve. I'll sign up, and that's who really made up the bulk of our soldiers in the Civil War.
A lot of these boys had never handled a rifle, and when they were given a Springfield or an Enfield or whatever and shown how to use it, they kind of knew. But in a battle, when you're rattled,
right,
you can forget some of your training. They found one rifle at Gettysburg that had over 20 balls in it. They'd probably been dropped by someone, picked up by somebody else, and reloaded.
Several times.
Just in panic, they just put in some more powder and ball.
Wow. So tell us how we can help. Now, I know the Adopt a Soldier program, you can make a direct financial donation to, I'm assuming. Who do we contact and how do we help out?
Well, the Rock Island County Sheriff's Department, Captain Ron Erickson, he's the project manager, if you will. And if they would like to, any of the public would like to make a donation of any kind, we'll take whatever we can get. We have a post office box, 3384, Rock Island, Illinois. And if anyone would like to make a donation, they could write a check to the Rock Island County Historical Society and send it to that address, and we would get it. We've had donations. I think our smallest donation is $2. But many people are donating $25, $30, $50, $100.
Well, it's an important piece of history for Rock Island, and you hate to see what's happened to it, and you really hate to lose, like you said, you don't want to lose those names that are on that monument, because those are our ancestors, those are the people who were here before us, and it's important to remember their sacrifice. And like you said, many did get into some serious battles, but many didn't. Many died just because in Civil War, so many people died. I think a lot more people died from illness and sickness.
Probably about 2/3 of them.
Right. So, I mean, their sacrifice, you don't want that to go unremembered as well. So I think this is a very important project for Rock Island.
And it's important to remember, too, that most of these men were buried where they fell, many of them in unmarked graves. And for many of them, maybe most of them, this is the only monument they have with the names of those men that died.
Yeah.
If you look at the names on the monument, it's like a who's who of the Illinois Quad Cities. You hear and see those names over and over again. Their families are still here, many of them.
Yeah. Well, I know the Buford family is one. John Buford pretty much saved Gettysburg. I think it's easily arguable that he's the reason.
He helped him take the high ground.
Right. He realized quickly, somebody better grab the high ground here, and that was John Buford. There were, we have a pretty good connection to the Civil War here in the Quad Cities with the number of people and the number of battles that our people fought in.
That's true.
Yeah, there's probably 15 or 20 major battles represented on that monument over there.
Yeah.
And, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Chickamauga.
Stones River.
Yep.
So
So it's something we definitely want to make sure we restore. We want to keep those names saved for history. And if is there a website if people want to learn more about this, where they can learn more about the statue and how they can help?
There are a number of websites. If you look for Rock Island County Civil War Monument, you'll find a number of, you'll see articles that have been written in paper. You'll see some videos from local TV. But one thing that's really important, there is a website you can go to. It's www.richs.cc/. That's the Rock Island County Historical Society. And you can join and support, and you can select donate, and then you can donate either by credit card or through PayPal.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys undertaking this. I know it's what are we looking to have this done? Do we have a timeline there?
We would love to do a rededication or have the new monument available for the public viewing for the first time on its 150th anniversary, and that would be April of 2019.
Wow, that would be perfect.
And the original dedication was deliberately done on April the 9th, because that was exactly 4 years after the Appomattox surrender.
Wow. Excellent. Well, you guys, it's so nice for you to stop by. And again, thanks for undertaking this. Dick Dulaney and Doug Lambert. And again, Rock Island County Historical Society is a good resource here if you want to find other ways to help out as well. It is 7:18. Dan and Dan. This is AM Quad Cities here on WOC.